Let's do a review of Monstrilio while also drawing all of the impurities out of our skin. If you didn't know, this was the inaugural novel in my Fable book club where we focus on alternative fiction, and I thought this was a strong pick. Kudos to everyone who voted on what the first book should be. I had a good time with this, but I do have thoughts and nitpicks, so we'll get into them. Something that really took me by surprise with this story, in a good way, is yes, it's very weird. That is what people will immediately talk about. It is a creature horror. There's some particularly upsetting scenes, some, big WTF scenes. But this book is also very gay. Like, it starts and it's just a bit gay. Like, oh, one character's a lesbian, she's pining after this other woman who appears to be straight, like it's an unrequited situation. And then this character's gay, this character's gay, they're going out clubbing. There's, my goodness, the book, the whole last quarter of it is like a whole like hookup horror situation, and loved it so much. And I like as well that the book, it's queer, but it doesn't grandstand about being queer, it just is, which for me is the most authentic representation. Like, it's not doing a song and dance about being queer, it just is. And it's not letting that take control of everything, because there is a story here to tell that they don't want it to get in the way of, if that makes sense. Can we talk about the final quarter, actually? Because, okay, without spoiling or giving anything away, this book is split up into 4 sections, each in a different main character's point of view. And I don't know, the way it jumps between them, I could have done with more context, because there's very little indication of time frame. Like, it jumps years into the future, but we're not given a warning. And it also jumps location a lot. Like, at one point we're in Mexico City, then we're in Berlin, then we're in New York. So I could have done with a bit more of like a guiding touch. But the last section, so this is a creature horror. It's based around a couple who lose their infant son. He only has like one lung and he tragically dies. And then, as you do, they do this little cultist ritual where the mum, this was very graphic and upsetting, the mum dissects her dead child and removes a piece of his lung. Which she doesn't actually know yet that she can like bring him back by doing that. So it is a bit like, why? I think there's a lot of craziness in this book that's sort of explained away by like grief, like, oh, bereavement, and like, I hear you, but also whoa. But anyways, I'm getting distracted. So this piece of lung, she like feeds it, and over time it turns into Monstrilio, this like little kind of like a gremlin or like a critter, like a little small monster thing. But then over the years, as it develops, it becomes more and more like their dead son, which, ooh, rough, traumatizing, in fact. But the last quarter of the book is in the son's perspective, and it was by far, to me at least, the most interesting part of the book, because there was a noticeable difference that you were in the perspective of something that is non-human, and the narration was so much more interesting for it. And it was kind of giving perfume, but instead of it being smell, like Grenouille's sense of smell, it was taste. And as I said, there was all of this hookup horror, because he is constantly hungry, and he keeps finding these random men on like dating sites to meet up with and like bite, sort of like appealing to their fetishes. And it was so fascinating to me. I want more of this. Give me more hookup horror, because I feel like that's such a like a core value in like the queer identity in particular. Like, it feels, there were so many experiences in the last quarter of this book that felt lived in. Like, you could tell that the writer was drawing from their own hookup experiences, and it felt so relatable. And that's where the horror really was in. I was like, oh, this is scary, like being in a stranger's house, not knowing what to expect from them. I really enjoyed it. Can we talk as well about the lack of disbelief in this whole family? Because so much crazy stuff happens in this book. And I wish there had been more moments where the characters were just like, what just happened? Because they were so ready to believe the madness. And I was just a bit like, huh? Like, you should be on the floor questioning your entire belief system because this weird little bat creature thing just sucked your mum. Like, fully sucking the mum, sucking all the blood out the mum. And I wish there'd been more of that, of the characters really going through it psychologically as they see this, like, very small, very parasitic little bloodsucker thing that was going after people. Because even Joseph, the dad, when he walks in and catches his wife cutting open their child, his reaction feels so small, you know? Like, if I caught my wife cutting into our infant son who had just died, police, you know? Like, that's desecration. Like, you can't do that. Like, hello, my wife has done something awful. Can you please lock her up? Like, no forgiveness. Don't give me all this, oh, they're grieving. What, so we can cut the dead body open? No, ma'am. That was wild to me. There were definitely some moments where I was like, these reactions should be bigger. And honestly, I can't tell if it was just... At first, I almost thought it was the translated fiction of it all, where I was like, oh, the translation is maybe not being as faithful. Or maybe it's a cultural difference, I don't know. Either way, I was befuddled at how far they were willing to go with all of this, the craziness of it all. I was like, you lot... I am agog. What I think would have transformed this book from a it was okay to like a holy cow, this is incredible. Make the entire thing in the perspective of the creature. Like, it starts and he's like journaling his own existence from the point where he is like mentally able to do that. But then also make the whole thing like a reflection on his damnation. Like, make it a little bit Clara and the Sun. Like, what does it mean to be a human? Is my existence valid? Like, maybe he has this continual back and forth with like the consciousness of Santiago, the infant whose place he's kind of took in the family. Like, that would be interesting, like if they had a back and forth, because the lung was from Santiago, so maybe like he remains as like a voice in his head, or maybe it's like a manifestation of his paranoia. I would have liked that. It would have been more interesting to me, because what we got instead, I don't dislike this book. I do think this was a solid first book for the club, but it more or less was giving Our Wives Under the Sea. In fact, I've given them the exact same rating, in that it's a book about blending the line of like what it means to be human, the like inner wildness of like being part human, part animal, being like a return to the wild, like not being able to fit in polite society of like the modern age. There's all, of course, both books are very queer as well, so there was that similarity as well. Like, if you enjoyed Our Wives Under the Sea, because I know people who love that book way more than I did, this would be a good one for you. Like, it definitely gives that. But yeah, that was Monstrilio. I liked it. What did you think of it? Club members, what did you think of it? We have another week still on the calendar for reading this, and then we'll move on to October's book. So watch this space.